Dear UN family, I have an immense pleasure to invite you to a beautiful, immersive journey. We're very excited to present a piece of art, a first time ever Oscar and Golden Globes winner from Latvia named Flow. This is a masterpiece created by a talented Latvian animation director, Pavļuta-Deslandes, and a small indie team using open source digital tools that are actually available to anyone. And they challenge our expectations of what animation can be. Flow takes us into a world reclaimed by nature, a flooded world with no humans, where only animals are the soul of the story. And there's a personal, emotional journey on how to deal with one's fear and find a way to survive together. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are the ones that are told without words. Flow is indeed a film without dialogue, only music. And not a single word is spoken, yet it speaks a universal language. This is a quiet call to our shared humanity. It reminds how amazing yet fragile our world is, and how survival depends not on strengths, but on solidarity and cooperation. And this is exactly what we do at the United Nations. We are trying to do our best to overcome divisions and to work together to face our common challenges and the urgency of climate action. Dear friends, our project of introducing Flow consists of two stages. First, there is a global online event in which we present the film through UN Global Network. And after me, you will also hear from the producer of the film, Matīss Kaža. He visited us in our mission in New York. And you will also see teasers from the film. And the second stage is a full screening at the UN headquarters on the 27th of May. I would like to use this opportunity to thank the UN Movie Society and its artistic director, Ms. Brenda Vongova, and her team for great cooperation and for making this project possible. So this is Flow. Welcome and enjoy the experience. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Brenda Vongova, President of the UN Movie Society, which is dedicated to advancing UN global causes through storytelling. We're so proud today, in partnership with the Permanent Mission of Latvia to the United Nations, to present this wonderful conversation with the Oscar-winning producer, Matīss Kaža of Flow. Today, we will explore the film's connections to the UN values and how it's relevant to the work we do. We will explore its relevance to the UN SDGs, the UN's humanitarian efforts, and how the creative process is bridging between the power of movies and storytelling to inspire positive change. Thank you so much for being here today. And once again, congratulations on your Oscar win. How does it feel?
Thank you. No, it feels great, especially because it's the first Oscar for any Latvian movie, and actually the first Oscar nomination as well. So I think it's not just a matter of us being proud of it, but also the whole country feeling like it's their win too.
It's a beautiful film which really exemplifies what we do at the UN, particularly in the work of climate change and life on land. So when you were creating Flow, were you using examples from real life, and how did you envisage this environmental collapse as you were creating this animation?
Yeah, so when we were working on the screenplay together with Gintz, we knew that this calamity was going to be interpreted in several different contexts, one of which is, of course, climate change. And we have seen similar calamities around the world in recent years, like storms destroying entire cities, entire towns. So we knew this would be a context in which the film would be interpreted in. However, when working on the script, what we had in mind was the subjective point of view of the cat and its fears. And so the water and this destruction and the flood is more a metaphor for first of all, sudden calamity, and also the fear that this kind of brings forth, the fear of what to do next, how to collaborate with others, how to overcome barriers. So I think that the flood in this film and The overflooded world can also be seen on a kind of more metaphorical, poetic level, but also we understand that there's going to be contexts of climate change and others such that speak to very relevant, pressing issues of the time.
Exactly, that's very powerful. On the Sustainable Development Goal of sustainable cities and communities, you see throughout the film remnants of human settlement that was once there. What message were you trying to tell through these depictions?
So our depictions of the human settlements are interesting because they're a synthesis of several cultures. So what we did not want the film to have is some sort of link to a documentary place or to like a specific place in the world, because we wanted the world of flow to kind of feel fantastical, like that it exists in what we would call mythical time, like it's all times and no specific time at the same time. So the architecture that we used as inspiration comes from everywhere around the world, from the Mayan culture to the Greco-Roman cultures to anywhere in between, even like Asia and other parts of the world. And we synthesized the elements of these cultures within the architecture of the film, such that it feels both familiar and new. Like it feels both recognizable, and yet it's not linked to any specific place, but rather a synthesis of places. So it's like a conversation between different cultures, visualized through the world of the film. In terms of the human civilization no longer being present, that's something that we really want to leave to the imagination of the viewer as to why they're not there. Have they left just because of this flood? Have they moved to another planet, perhaps? This is a fantastical world in which everything is possible, so the answers are in one's imagination. However, one thing that is noticeable is that they've left recently, because the sculptor's workshop in which the cat resides at the beginning of the film seems like somebody was there recently doing some work and creating these beautiful sculptures. So there's a lot of, so the way we wanted the film to work with the audience is, rather than us giving very specific, almost spoon-fed messages as to how the world works, we wanted the audience to participate and to wonder about the possibilities of what could happen, thus engaging them more in the experience, because we believe in very smart audiences that want to be a part of this experience of discovering what's behind the world of flow.
It's excellent. You did a beautiful job in conveying this message. And what I really appreciated is how universal and how it doesn't take place in one country. At first, when I first watched the film, I was trying to figure out what country this film took place, and then I realized it was a fantastical world.
Indeed, and all the animals.
It was an amalgamation of every country.
Yes, and all the animals that take shelter in this boat, they're all from different parts of the world. For example, the capybara resides in, its natural habitat is South America, while the secretary bird comes from South Africa. The cat could be from anywhere, but we like to think it as our Latvian cat. And then the dog, of course, as well, and the lemur comes from other parts of the world. So theoretically, in reality, they couldn't really easily end up together unless they came from a zoo or something. But in this specific world, we kind of break the rules of geography and have them come together. Partially because, of course, we built their characters based on their animal behavior, and also kind of wanted these characters to be as different as possible in terms of their looks and silhouette and behavior and interaction.
there's a huge connection between the film and environmental refugees and displacement. Although the characters are animals and not humans, but what I really appreciate about the film was that it shows how when a crisis happens like this, it's the poorest of the poor that are affected. And in this case, the animals are very vulnerable. And was this the message you were hoping to convey?
I think that's one of the possible messages of the film. Yes, you know, sometimes when these calamities happen, we think about what are we going to do with the humans? How are we going to help the humans? How are we going to rescue them from peril? But we don't oftentimes think about animals in this context. Like you know, when huge storms happen or other climate disasters, what happens to the pets in the homes? What happens to the animals in the shelters, and so on and so forth? So this is also something that one might consider when watching a film like Flow. But of course, in Flow, it's a fantastical world where, you know, these animals are able to steer the boat, which would not happen in real life. So there's certain, of course, anthropomorphic traits to them in order to have the story advance. But other than that, it does imagine what could happen with the animals that are left behind.
Yeah. And when they're left behind, you see how important connection and cooperation is, and which is all about what the work we do at the UN as well. Was there a reason why you decided to not have any humans at all and just have animals as your characters?
Yeah, there's a very practical reason actually behind this. So Gints Zilbalodis, the director of the film, has never done a film with any dialogue. So he's always worked on purely cinematic terms. Basically the audiovisual experience without any kind of textual explanation. So in order to sustain this, there couldn't really be any humans, because if there were humans, they would have to talk, to converse. You would expect them to interact in this way. So because we wanted to keep it textless, it was just animals, and we showed no backstory as to what happens to the humans. But also, this helps us really have the subjective point of view of the cat. And it interacting with other animals. And surprisingly enough, despite us using real animal noises and not having the cats, you know, converse the cat converse with other animals in English or whatever other human language, as many animated films do, you still understand how they're interacting and what they mean through their gestures and interactions. And that is, I think, a part of the charm of this film, that it shows that verbal language is not the only basis of our cross-cultural communication.
And it really parallels how the United Nations works, because here at the UN we have 193 different countries.
Of course, and many
different languages. Yet what unifies all of us together is through caring actions, helping each other. And similar to your film Flow, where you don't need language.
No.
It's actions and emotions and
I think
matter.
And I think that's why the film also resonates so easily worldwide, is because it's really experiential. It's about the experience, and everybody really gets the themes of the films just from watching the interactions and from how the different situations unfold.
It's so beautiful, the way you conveyed everything. And what I found it very interesting in the film is the use of silence, and which really requires emotional expression through the characters. And it's what were some, I'm not a technical person, but what were some things you were using to try to convey emotions more when there's no use of dialogue?
Yes, so sometimes Flow is referred to as a silent film, which is not really true, because silent films originally were silent, as in there was no sound design and no music. Whereas in Flow, of course, it's a textless movie in the sense that there is no dialogue, but there's so much detailing in the sound design, in the way the world works, in the way you hear these atmospheric noises as the boat passes through different environments, in the different animal noises, in just how subjective the sound experience is from the perspective of the cat. But I think one of the main elements that really drives the emotional journey of the film is the music. And the music was created in close conjunction with the screenplay and the animatic. So it came very, very early on in the process as this guiding tool of really captivating the audience and taking the emotional experience to the next level. However, I agree that there are many moments in the film when very little sound is used, when we're just present there in the moment and kind of trying to listen for certain clues as to what's going on and how we're supposed to interpret what's going on. And I think that's where the audience is really engaged most, because they're forced to be present in the moment and to look for clues in the interactions.
Do you have any favorite moments in the film?
I do. I have several favorite moments. First of all, I love the moment when the capybara jumps into the water at one point. I think it's in the city, and tries to get this buoy that the dog lost. But then it realizes that danger is coming, just turns around and goes back, which is, I think, a perfect character moment. And then, of course, I think one of the most poetic moments in recent cinema in general is this ascension of the bird towards the end of the film. I was going to mention that.
That was, I really cried epic during that epic moment.
And I think it's like the perfect synthesis of sound, music, and just breathtaking visuals, and the poetry of how that character is treated in that moment, I think, is really, really special. Gins did a really good job there.
And you did too. What message do you hope the audience will leave after watching this film?
I think that the film is actually very honest as to the juxtaposition that it explores, which is kind of the individual, and when it makes sense to make decisions on your own, and when it makes sense to make decisions in a group, or to follow the group, or to counter the group, or to interact with the group. So I think there's a lot to explore regarding just questions about individual and group dynamics, which is very important, I know for you as well. And also, I think there's this message of, we're in the same boat. We're together on the same planet, trying to, to get by, and there's more that unites us than what differentiates us. And sometimes we have to rely a lot on the factors that unite us, especially in times of peril and times of
Dissonance.
change and yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I want to thank you so much for producing this powerful film, which truly unifies the world. And I know the audience will definitely appreciate your film, especially here at the United Nations.
Thank you.
It really, really parallels the work we do here at the UN in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, the work we do in humanity, and also it is a very powerful way of encouraging storytelling, and which parallels the work we do at the UN. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lovely interview.